Detroit, 1963. The Ford Motor Company doesn't just make cars, it makes the future. 500,000 workers, factories stretching to the horizon, profits measured in billions. Henry Ford II, grandson of the legend, heir to the machine, commands an empire so vast that when he walks into a room, the room rearranges itself. This is the company that once produced a new vehicle every 24 seconds, that armed America for 2 world wars, that built the middle class with one hand and rewrote its own laws with the other. Ford doesn't answer to markets. Markets answer to Ford. And yet, somewhere behind the quarterly reports, behind the ribbon cuttings and the factory floors, a question begins to form, a dangerous one. Not about profit, not about market share, about legacy, about what happens when an empire decides it wants something it was never built to have. Maranello, Italy. Population, 17,000 souls. One legend. Enzo Ferrari doesn't build cars, he performs rituals. His factory, if you can call it that, sits in a quiet corner of Emilia-Romagna. A few hundred men, handcrafted components, race schedules written like scripture. Ferrari doesn't mass produce. Ferrari selects. He turns down orders. He fires clients he dislikes. He once told a wealthy customer, a tractor manufacturer who dared to complain about the quality of a Ferrari clutch, that he wasn't worthy of the prancing horse. That man's name was Ferruccio Lamborghini. You know how that ended. By 1963, Ferrari has won Le Mans 6 times in 8 years. The 24 hours of Le Mans, the most brutal endurance race ever conceived. 24 hours of sustained mechanical and human warfare. Ferrari doesn't just dominate Le Mans, Ferrari owns it. And everyone from Detroit to Tokyo knows it. Ford wants to grow, not in factories, not in profit margins. Ford wants something harder to manufacture: prestige. The European sports car market is exploding. Wealthy Americans are choosing Italian machines over Detroit steel. Ferrari, Maserati, Lamborghini, they carry a status that no marketing budget can replicate. Ford knows this. So Henry Ford II authorizes a solution: buy Ferrari. The logic is clean, elegant even. Ferrari is bleeding financially. Enzo pours everything into racing and leaves almost nothing for the balance sheet. An acquisition offer materializes. $18 million, a number that would save Ferrari and hand Ford the crown jewel of European motorsport. Negotiations begin. Enzo Ferrari entertains the offer for weeks. He reviews the paperwork. He meets with Ford's representatives. He almost says yes, almost. The deal dies on a single clause: control of the racing division. Ford's legal team inserts standard language. Any racing budget above a certain threshold would require Ford's approval. Standard corporate governance, completely routine. Enzo Ferrari reads it once and stops the entire negotiation, not politely. Enzo Ferrari tells Ford's representatives, in front of witnesses, that Henry Ford II is a parvenu, a word that translates roughly to a man with money but no class, new money, unworthy. He says Ford knows how to count beans, not how to build dreams. The message arrives in Dearborn. Henry Ford II receives it in his office. He reads it again. He sets it down on the desk. And then, according to everyone who was in that building that day, Henry Ford II does something no one had seen before. He loses his composure entirely. The empire has been insulted. Ford's response is not measured, it is not diplomatic, it is not proportional. Henry Ford II assembles his engineers, his executives, his financial leadership, and he delivers what will become one of the most expensive emotional decisions in the history of American business. We're going to Le Mans, and we're going to beat Ferrari. Full stop. Not, we'll explore the possibility. Not, let's form a committee. Ford II commits immediately to an unlimited budget campaign with a single objective: destruction. He wants Ferrari humiliated on the track where Ferrari has been untouchable for a decade, publicly, internationally, definitively. This is not a business strategy. This is a vendetta dressed in corporate language, and it will consume hundreds of millions of dollars, 3 years, multiple lives, and produce one of the most extraordinary and most revealing racing programs in history. War has been declared. Here's the problem. Ford has everything Ferrari doesn't: money, factories, engineers by the thousands, the full resources of a company that generates more revenue in a week than Ferrari does in a year. And it means almost nothing. Because motorsport is not a manufacturing exercise. Motorsport is a knife fight. Ferrari has been in that knife fight since 1947. Their engineers don't use slide rules the way Ford's engineers use slide rules. They use intuition, accumulated blood knowledge, decades of watching machines break apart at 200 miles per hour and understanding, in the marrow, why. Ford's engineers are brilliant, but they are building a race car the way they build a Mustang, with process, with committees, with sign-off chains that add weeks to decisions that need to be made in minutes. The GT40 program launches, and immediately, catastrophically, Ford discovers exactly what money cannot buy: racing DNA. Le Mans, 1964, Ford arrives with every expectation of glory. 3 cars enter, 3 cars retire, mechanical failures across the board, gearbox failures, overheating, 1 car catches fire. The GT40, built with the full weight of Ford's engineering empire, cannot survive 24 hours on a circuit Ferrari has mastered over a decade. Ford goes home. They return with improvements, better cooling systems, refined aerodynamics, more testing hours logged than any racing program in history. 3 cars enter, all 3 retire, again. Ferrari wins Le Mans, again. The press is not kind. The headlines write themselves. American giant defeated by Italian artisans, Detroit's billions no match for Maranello's soul. Henry Ford II is publicly humiliated, twice, on the world's biggest stage. And in the boardrooms back in Dearborn, the question no one in power ever wants to answer begins to form. Were we wrong about this? Ford needs a different kind of mind, not a corporate mind, a racing mind. Enter Carroll Shelby, Texas, Cobra Daytona, Le Mans winner, 1959. A man who understands the gap between building a fast car and building a winning car, because he's stood on both sides of that gap. Ford approaches Shelby with an offer and a problem. The offer, unlimited resources. The problem, everything. Shelby's diagnosis is swift and brutal. The GT40 program is being run like an auto show exhibit. Too many engineers, too many opinions, too much corporate caution applied to a discipline where caution gets you killed. He takes control under Shelby American, moves the operation to California, away from Dearborn, away from the committees, and then he makes the call that will change the entire program. He picks up the phone, and he asks for the most difficult man in American motorsport. His name is Ken Miles, British, abrasive, incandescently talented. Miles is the kind of driver who tells engineers exactly what their car is doing wrong in precise technical language while traveling at 200 miles per hour. He is simultaneously a test driver, a development engineer, and a racer of the first order. He is also completely unemployable by conventional automotive standards. Too blunt, too opinionated, too unwilling to soften his feedback for executives who don't understand what he's telling them. Ford's corporate team doesn't want him. Shelby insists. This is the decision that saves the entire program. Miles doesn't just drive the GT40. He rebuilds its feedback loop. He identifies failures that months of wind tunnel testing had missed entirely. He understands the car at a cellular level. Under Miles and Shelby, the GT40 stops being a corporate racing project. It becomes a weapon. Specifically, the GT40 Menke 2, 7 liters, 485 horsepower, designed to destroy. The GT40 Menke 2 is not a refinement. It is a declaration. Ford and Shelby spend the winter of 1965 re-engineering everything. Engine bored to 7 liters. Chassis stiffened. Braking rebuilt from first principles. The cooling failures, the ones that killed the cars in 64 and 65, addressed with brutal, systematic thoroughness. Miles logs test mile after test mile. Every session generates data. Every data point generates a modification. The car evolves faster than any Ferrari has evolved in years, and the results are undeniable. Daytona, February 1966. GT40 Menke 2s finish first, second, third. Sebring, March 1966. Miles wins again. Ford is no longer testing. Ford is executing. 3 months later, the circus moves to France. Le Mans, the 24 hours, the only race that matters. Ferrari is waiting, and for the first time in a decade, Ferrari is nervous. The Circuit de la Sarthe, 13.6 kilometers of public road, temporarily closed and converted into the most demanding racing surface in the world. The Mulsanne Straight, 4 miles long, cars reaching 220 miles per hour. Nothing between the driver and the barrier except nerve. June 1966. 55 cars enter. Ford sends 8 GT40s. Ferrari sends 7. The press boxes fill. Hundreds of thousands of spectators line the circuit. This is not just a race. This is a geopolitical event. American industrial might versus European artisanal supremacy. A corporation versus a church. The assembly line versus the atelier. Henry Ford II is in France. He wants to watch. Enzo Ferrari, characteristically, is not. He hasn't attended Le Mans in years. He sends his cars like a general sends troops. The flag drops. The 1966 24 hours of Le Mans begins. The first hours belong to Ferrari, as expected. The Ferraris are nimble, precise, faster through the Porsche curves, through the Ford chicane, named with bitter irony for the company trying to dethrone them. But endurance racing is not decided in hours. It is decided in the dark. Ferrari's strategy is clear. Push hard early. Hope Ford breaks again. Ford's strategy is equally clear. Maintain pace. Eliminate mechanical risk. Outlast. Miles runs his GT40 MK2 with surgical patience, not fastest in any given sector, fastest across 24 hours of cumulative mathematics. One by one, the Ferraris begin to falter. An engine, a gearbox, a differential. By midnight, Ford has the lead. By dawn, the lead is a margin. And as the sun rises over the Mulsanne Straight, the shape of history becomes visible. Ferrari is not going to win this race. Ford is. The only question remaining is what Ford will do with the victory. And that question will define the entire story. With 4 hours remaining, Ford holds positions 1, 2, and 3. An extraordinary formation, and Ford's management, watching from the pit wall and from the grandstands, makes a decision. Not a racing decision, a marketing decision. They want a photo finish. 3 GT40s crossing the line simultaneously. side by side, a clean corporate image, the kind of photograph that wins advertising awards. The message to the drivers comes down through the team. Hold your positions, slow down, cross together. Miles, running in first place, is told to wait for his teammates. He complies. What Ford's management does not fully understand, or does not fully care about, is what that order costs Ken Miles personally. Miles has already won Daytona and Sebring that year. A Le Mans win would make him the only driver in history to win all 3 races in a single season. The Triple Crown. One instruction changes everything. The 3 cars slow. They approach the finish line together. The crowd erupts. The photograph is everything Ford wanted. 3 GT40s, nose to nose, American red, white and blue, Enzo Ferrari's kingdom, publicly dismantled on his own cathedral ground. But there is a problem with the photograph, a technical one. The rules state that finishing positions are determined by starting positions when cars cross simultaneously. Miles started his car from a position behind the other 2. On paper, on the grid sheet, he did not finish first. He finished second. The man who built the weapon, who diagnosed the failures, who carried the program through 2 years of corporate humiliation, who drove 24 hours at the outer edge of human endurance, did not win, officially. Ford got its photograph. Ken Miles got nothing. He knew the rule existed. He complied anyway, because that's what you do when you work for an empire. You serve the image, not the man. 6 weeks after Le Mans, August 17th, 1966, Ken Miles is testing a Ford J-Car prototype at Riverside International Raceway. Something fails. The car goes off at high speed. Ken Miles is killed. He is 47 years old. There's no dramatic corporate post-mortem, no public accounting. No executive stands at a podium and says what the racing community already knows. That the man who saved the GT40 program, who gave Ford its Le Mans victory, died testing the next version of the car he had rebuilt from failure, for a win he wasn't credited with, for an organization that overruled him at the finish line for the sake of a photograph. Shelby never fully recovers from the loss. The GT40 continues. Ford wins Le Mans again in 1967. 68, 69. The machine outlasts the man who made it, as machines always do. This is the part of the story that the marketing materials leave out. So, what did Ford versus Ferrari actually prove? That money wins? Sometimes, conditionally, expensively. That passion beats process? Ferrari didn't think so. He sold to Fiat in 1969. Even cathedrals need a budget. Here's what it actually proved. Empires can buy capability. They cannot buy identity. Ford had to acquire Carroll Shelby, had to find Ken Miles, had to move the operation out of its own headquarters away from itself before the program could function. The fatal flaw was never the GT40. It was the assumption that scale is a substitute for culture, that enough resources, deployed with enough urgency, can replicate what an organization builds over decades of failure and iteration. It can't. Not cleanly, not without cost. The Ford Motor Company won Le Mans, and in doing so, revealed exactly what it could not manufacture. The soul of the thing it was trying to destroy. That lesson is still playing out, right now. In every boardroom that mistakes budget for identity. Every rivalry leaves a blueprint. If you know how to read it, subscribe to Rivalry Files, because the next briefing is already in production, and the next war makes this one look restrained. The file is closed. For now.